Hello, my name is Scott Spurgeon, and I'm a research coastal engineer at the Engineering Research and Development Center as a part of the United States Army Corps of Engineers. This presentation is going to overview some of my work this last year revolving around Lake Ontario with the GIS approach, creating a near seamless digital elevation model of Lake Ontario. The goal for this project was to create a near seamless DEM of the lake and the surrounding areas, especially the United States nearshore and the inland areas. There were multiple teams that were able to benefit from this data upon its release, and it's also available for delivery to other interested parties. An important requirement of this work by the modeling team was a lake-wide bathymetric coverage to ensure complete coverage of their mesh. We also ensured that the data would be prioritized based on age and that we would have quality assurance and quality control work completed on the final product. This approach leveraged and improved upon an approach initially developed to support the United States Army Corps of Engineers South Atlantic Coastal Study, where the near seamless DEMs were developed for Puerto Rico and the southeast and Gulf coasts. We also leveraged this approach for the GLRI Lake Michigan feature extraction in support of the vulnerability index there. The Great Lakes Restoration Initiative accelerates efforts to protect and restore the largest system of fresh surface water in the world, which is the Great Lakes. Since 2010, the multi-agency GLRI has provided funding to 16 federal organizations to strategically target the biggest threats to the Great Lakes ecosystem and to accelerate progress towards achieving long-term goals. Simultaneously, the SACS workflow, as I had mentioned, had leveraged available DEM products in a GIS architecture that supports on-the-fly mosaicing to create meshes and complete modeling efforts. This workflow combines aspects of these two projects to give our methodology and approach. The source data is really important in this project. Data was collected from all sources, including NCMP, United States Army Corps of Engineers, USGS, and NOAA. It should be noted that the NOAA bathy here, while it says it was made in 2000, it was created in 2000, but it's actually based off of older bathymetry maps and some other sources. So its reliability for modern use should be considered as older than 2000 based on that data. We used 2017 and 2018 Niagara County coverage from USGS, 2014 to 2020 surveys for USGS that spanned very far inland for their mesh development there. The USE hydro data had great detailed coverage of inlets that we hadn't had previously, and the NCMP coverage had widespread coverage along the nearshore bathymetric areas, and the inland coverage that was 2007, 2011, and then 2018. The 2018 data had just been made available to us as it had to go through processing, and so it was a great data set to use. Here's an overview of the coverage of each of the input datasets. These datasets were downloaded locally to a large workstation at JobTex for processing. The local download allowed us to complete many of the tasks within the quality assurance and quality control process that would not have been available otherwise. As I had said, this is 7 individual data sources from all of these different federal partners. And this ended up being over 4,500 individual raster DEMs. At the end of it all, it was multiple terabytes of data that we had downloaded and combined, and so it was a massive push. Now, how are we going to do this? The architecture to manage these data sets leveraged Mosaic datasets in ArcGIS Pro. The Mosaic dataset is a catalog that stores the paths which are on the disk to individual DEM footprints and the metadata, which includes things like the DEM name, the source, the date, etc. And it provides on-the-fly mosaic in the DEMs for efficient visualization in a map and for further geoprocessing tasks. As you can see here, the attribute table shows each of the individual rasters by name, and it's actively mosaicing them together on the fly in the image to the right. This is a great way to see this data. You're able to see data that may have been split into smaller chunks or somehow tiled for processing. You're able to kind of combine it back into that data set and see a great seamless product for that, for instance, that individual 2018 NCMP image here. After adding each individual data set to its own mosaic, some of the upfront upfront quality assurance control work started, making sure that we were leveraging raster function templates. The goal of the raster function template here is to on the fly remove or mask areas that is topo only LiDAR and has been hydro flattened, so that the data sets, when they're integrated into that derived mosaic data set, that the actual true beautiful bathymetry does come through. 2 individual mosaic data sets required the removal hydro flattening through the raster function templates. And the chart on the lower portion of the slide shows an example masking. It's essentially setting all values that are less than or equal to 74.3 meters within those rasters to null. And so that generates the chart on the right from the chart on the left. Similarly, we applied a raster function template to the NOAA bathy to only leverage the bathymetric portion of the data. That NOAA bathy is old and sparse, so the masking let us use it for those areas in which there was really only no other data available. And in this case, all elevations above 70 meters, IGLD 85, were masked out using a raster function template. Continuing through our methodology, we took each of these individual mosaic datasets and stacked them based on their age. This stacking is often referred to as a Swiss cheese model. And so given a single piece of Swiss cheese, if you just throw a piece of Swiss cheese down on the table, you're going to have some holes in it. But if you put other pieces of Swiss cheese underneath it, it allows those holes to be filled. After you stack all of your different Swiss cheese, all of your individual mosaic data sets, the holes that go all the way from the top all the way to the bottom, and you're able to see the bottom, those are the areas where you do not have coverage in any of your data sets. And that coverage on the right side shows the individual mosaic data sets that are stacked before they're integrated. And so that's why you have those unique colors overlapping on top of each other. The NOAA bathy is on the bottom, even though it kind of looks like it's on the top. It's just the unique way that the symbology was done. Once the derived mosaic data set was created from those individual mosaic data sets by stacking them, QA/QC leveraged the elevation void fill raster function in ArcPro. As you can see here, the inland water areas were filled and then manually QA/QC to ensure there weren't any filling artifacts that remained. What we did is we used a maximum of 1,000 meters length filled per void, and we made sure that there was data within 5 meters every single time a void was filled as well. This did a great job. This this elevation void fill raster function, this did a fantastic job, but we also did want to make sure that we went through and we cleaned up any artifacts. There were a couple times where it showed that it was kind of having trouble, and so we helped it along with some manual interpolation. The QA/QC work also leveraged the ArcGIS Pro pixel editor, which is part of the image analyst extension in ArcPro. There's artifacts from overlapping data sources here, which were smoothed using that pixel editor. The interface between the shoreline data and the NOAA bathy being based on those older maps and data sources, that was the primary area where the stepping occurred. As you can see here on the left side, that stepping is showing those straight lines, which isn't really reminiscent of your true data. That's just where those two are interfacing. And then on the right side, you see the corrected interpolated area to resolve that stepping. After the combination of these data sets, the filling of the voids and quality assurance and control throughout, this is our final product. It's a beautiful, near seamless DEM that can be used as direct input for model domains, nearshore vulnerability indexes, and more. At the end of it all, we had a range from -116 to all the way up to 856. That's IGLD 85. And so you had a very large range of values, and you're able to see the beautiful contours here throughout the lake along the near shore. And this is at a 1 meter resolution. Obviously, the NOAA bathy data that is at a 70 meter resolution, that was essentially downscaled to a 1 meter. It didn't necessarily actually get to 1 meter, even though we now have 1 meter resolution. But along the entire shoreline, along most of this inland area, you really do have true, beautiful 1 meter data that is seamless. Our next steps for this research include the Canadian data being added to specifically support the modeling requirements. We were not tasked with the feature extraction or sediment budgets on the Canadian side, but feature extractions on the United States side is complete. The Coastal Engineering Resilience Index, those results are in review. The Great Lakes Vulnerability Index is processing the data. This has a lot of applications. The rest of the Great Lakes will also go through this near seamless DEM process in collaboration with federal partners. A huge thank you to all those who are part of this effort, especially Charlene Sylvester, who was the PI for this work. All of these teams had an instrumental role in the success and the long-term meaning for this project. As I had said previously, we are going to continue on with the rest of the Great Lakes. Work on Superior is actually already started. I'm currently putting all of the different data sources together. And so if you'd like to send me an email because you have some data that I may not know about, or you want to make sure that I'm including your data source, please send me an email. My point of contact is up there on the slide. In addition, if you'd like to use this data set, if you'd like to use Ontario, if you'd like to use these lakes once they become available, send me an email. We would love to be able to share this data. This has so many applications, being a near seamless DEM at a single meter resolution, being able to have confidence in this data that it's been QA/QC, that it's been covered on all aspects. We want to be able to share this data with as many people as possible. It was a huge push. As I said, it was terabytes of data. It was a lot of processing time. It was a lot of QA/QC. It was a lot of going back and forth to make sure we were confident in the data. And we want to make sure that all that effort doesn't just go to a couple teams that requested it, but anybody who's interested in using this for modeling purposes, for vulnerability purposes, for whatever it may be within the coastal environment, we want to make sure that we're able to get it to you. So just send me an email. If you have any questions, you can send me an email as well. Thank you so much.